Hello everyone, welcome to Planet B. So my name is Hideaki Ogawa. I'm an artist and also director of Ars Electronica Futurelab. Today is positioned as Futurelab Day. During the festival, there's a special focus for each day. And so I'm very happy to have super wonderful guests from all over the world. And also to me personally, how to say, after the pandemic, last year, Martina and I couldn't meet because we are both from Leeds. But such broad from South Sphere, from Japan, and from United States, I'm very, very happy to share this moment together. But I would say this is a really perfect time to discuss the future of humanity after many experiences. But I'm sure all artists, scientists, and innovators have their own kind of update and also research over 2 years, I would say. So this again, Futurelab Day. I'm from Futurelab. Do you know some about Futurelab? Because some people don't know at all about the Futurelab. I need a little bit advertise. Ars Electronica is not just a festival. Ars Electronica is not just a center here. But Ars Electronica has pre-Ars Electronica, as you got. But also Ars Electronica has own laboratory and atelier for future systems. So we Ars Electronica Futurelab is belonging to such broad ecosystem of Ars Electronica itself. Then so this time we set the general really motto as creating resilience for planet B. And this session is focusing on humanity of the future, observing the possibilities presented by life science, brain science, artificial intelligence, artificial life, robotics. We can see the essence and the hints of new meaning of life and also humanity. 21st century, 22nd century, what kind of technosphere. And especially this session would be focusing on more kind of technosphere topic as Planet B, and what kind of humanity will we acquiesce in the environment. So this session will deepen the discussion of the new humanity inspired by the mixture of art and cutting-edge science. So. Today, the structure-wise first, I would like to introduce one by one through a kind of dialogue. This is the first block, and it's like inspirational introduction. Then second part is dynamic discussions. I'm trying to be on behalf of you because so many great insights today. I would be a kind of representative journalist to listen to their ideas. And at the end, I'm gonna also open this discussion to you guys through the QA session, okay? So once again, thank you for coming. First of all, just a moment, I forgot to move this one. So today, such great members from bio, brain, AI, robotics. So it's all about ourselves, humans. So what's human? So that's the main discussion, and also together with Planet B. First, welcome Hiroshi-san. Hiroshi Ishiguro is a Japanese engineer, professor of the Department of System Innovation at Osaka University. Actually, we are quite old friends. Over 10 years ago, we met, and actually his first very famous Geminoid android robot. When I met him, he still kept his super great robot at his laboratory. Then we thought, oh, not good. Then what we did in 2009 was we brought his robot. I took a lot of efforts after drinking so many, alcohol, and I could manage to convince him to bring his robot to the Ars Electronica. It was 2009. Then we put the Android over there for 1 month, right? It was amazing, really initiative. But he is now also responsible for pavilion producer at the Expo 2025 in Helen, Osaka. My question to you, if you could introduce yourself, but after 1 decade, we didn't meet, we didn't exchange much about fundamental question about what is humanity and what is robotinity.
Okay, so hello everybody. Well, I'm a roboticist. I'm a creator of a very human-like androids. Actually, this is my first copy. And now I have 6 generations. And 6th generation is much better than me in some sense as well. Well, it behaves much better. I mean, so for example, how to use the eye contact and head movement and the gestures. So we need to have a training. But my Android is much better than me. Actually, the Akane, she is designing the behavior or movement of the Android. And this is a very important thing. The robot, so the avatar is going to be beyond the masters. Right? Robot is much better than us. So what is the humanity? What the robotinity? I don't see any difference there. Right? The near futures, what is the human? Human is we have the 2 ways of evolution. One is the technology, the other is genes, right? And basically we are different from a monkey, different from an animal, because we can improve by ourselves, by improving the technology. That is the human. So that is the reason why I don't see any boundary between robotinity and humanity. Okay. So anyway, near futures, I want to develop the Android robot that is much better than human. So that is my challenge for the Expo 2025.
Hiroshi, are you a robot?
Well,
Today?
Today I am still human, but someday
There is
I
very
will be.
insights. Robot should be or might be better, or he doesn't care about it. But next, I'm very happy to connect Hiroshi to Akane. Akane Kikuchi. Akane is a Japanese artist and designer. She runs a design studio, Kick, since 2020. And as far as I heard from, and also research about your activities, you are utilizing, in a way, traditional culture and behavior, wisdom, and also crafts, and for high technology. Like he is now maybe current subject, right? And so how culture can shape new technology is maybe one of your challenge. So then through the collaboration between you and Hiroshi, maybe you found many interesting kind of subjects. May I ask, what is the sense of life for humanity?
Hi, I'm Akane from Tokyo. I'm an art director and artist in Japan. And I just work with Hiroshi. And, well, my sense of humanity is like a human movement, it's like Shosa. Yeah, I think this is kind of difference between gesture or body language. But I just express with my heart, with my movement. So ultimately, the robot has that kind of movement. So I just want to design that heart-whole movement in each moment. So I think it is the only human could do. And I think it's we are creating the unspoken experience hidden not only in Japanese culture but also in everything.
Okay, super. And as she mentioned, like not just directly intentional, gesture or behavior.
Yeah.
But in between, or today maybe I can distinguish it's quite different from our online conference that we spend tons of time I feel your vibrations and also even bacteria, right? So because that's seriously the reason why we are meeting and exchanging to get new immune from international wise. But I'm gonna connect to Martina Mara. Is a former member of Ars Electronica Futurelab. We spend a lot of research, efforts together, and now professor for robopsychology at the Akane Kikuchi University. And her research interests include public attitude towards robotics and AI, the reproduction of gender stereotypes in technology design, or the relation between understandability and the truthworthiness of intelligent machines. So that is background. And the reason why I have her is, of course, besides this synchronicity to the topic, she just opened a new initiative, Me and the Machine, new initiative at the -3 RSA. And if you have time, you can find a unique studio setting to explore the trust with robot and AI system. And Futurelab and her laboratory is now researching about co-robot through by utilizing the deep space as a platform for robot. And may I ask, of course, you expert about the psychology but social aspect. So what do people trust and believe?
Well, could you go to
sorry,
my
yeah,
slide maybe?
yeah.
So I have also images. Hida, is it okay to reframe the question
Yeah,
to
for sure.
what do people trust and believe about technology, or let's say artificial intelligence maybe? Because currently many people who get asked through surveys, for example, state that they don't feel well informed about what this whole hype about AI actually is. Many people actually don't understand what is all these mythical terms like neural networks and cognitive robots and artificial intelligence. So they have to believe and trust in what they see in movies, for example, or what they get confronted with in the media. And sometimes this is quite shocking, like, many people based on media reports, and this might be non-fictional or fictional media, think of AI as a highly human-like robot that knows everything and completely overestimate what's possible. But they might also fear what AI is. On the other hand, people get told very often that the computer, the algorithm, artificial intelligence is very rational, can make great decisions, great decision-making tool, right? So they might overtrust it. Because of course AI has failures, it's human-made, it's an artifact made by humans, so why should it be perfect? Can't be. So what we study, and this is also about the pictures here that are related to this, is how using psychological methods and theories, how can we better align trust that people pose in AI systems with the actual trustworthiness of the systems. And we study how we can make, let's say, classification algorithms more understandable so that people better understand what's going on and how a decision is made, and then align how much they trust this AI system. And what we did last year, so these images are from last year's festival, where we had a quite huge exhibition space at the Learning Center called Demystify AI. Benedict, my postdoc, where's the t-shirt? Yeah. Yes, great. So one of our installations, and at the same time the research environment, was our AI forest. So this was an 80 square meters indoor forest where people using a tablet and a classification model that we programmed together with colleagues from computer science at JTU, they could collect mushroom objects in this artificial forest. And then on the tablet they got a photo of a mushroom, and you can see this on the left on the slide. And our app Forestly, so a classification model, just told what kind of mushroom it thinks this is, they found. And one group of people got the result of the classification algorithm without any other explanation, without any other information, just the result that 88% this is a panda cup, for example. And the other half of people got additional explanations to make it more understandable how the system came to this decision. So a heat map, as you can see on the slide, that shows the parts of the image to the people that were most influential for the result, and also some examples of other mushroom pictures. So people could recognize whether the eye made its decision based on the right parts in the image. And what we found is that people who got these additional explanations not only made better decisions, so more correct identifications of edible mushrooms, for example, but also trusted the system less. Which in this case was good because the system was sometimes faulty. So this is actually what we want, and this is about the alignment of trust. And if you want to take part in this study, please don't do it because you know too much about it now, but other people could take part in it down in the cellar. Yeah, this was too long, I know, sorry.
No, fantastic. Connect to next, because of course she mentioned about trust and also background connections between humans and AI. Sarah Newman and Kasia Chmielinski project are all about new concept about not mushroom though, but mushroom has kind of traceability, right? But now the organic mushroom, where this is coming from, or when you go to the organic restaurant, all ingredients are needed. But do we have it, for AI system? It's all about their project. So Sarah Newman is a co-founder of the winner project called the Data Nutrition Project, the DNP, right? And Newman is the director of art and education at MetaLab at Harvard University. And as I said, that project got to the Ars Electronica Awards for digital humanity. Congratulations for those. And when I saw your all activities, you are really focused on traceability, transparency, traceability, and also responsibility, I would say. So my question to you is, what is the future we want?
Great, thank you. Can you go back one slide?
Sorry, I pushed too much.
Great, thank you so much, Hide. And it's great to follow up with you because I can't wait to get into the discussion. So yes, as Hide said, I'm one of the co-founders of the Data Nutrition Project, and we're grateful that we were awarded this prize for digital humanity, which is such an honor. And Kasia's going to talk about more about what we do, but in terms of the future we want, I'll start by sharing the future we don't want. And the future we don't want is a supercharged version of the past, or even a supercharged version of the present. Our past is really problematic. And as we've seen before, the inequity, as we've seen proven time and time again, there's been people harmed, there's been a lot of discrimination, and that's where our data comes from. Our data comes from the past and the present. And if we build systems and we call them neutral, or we call them map, and we set these systems to predict the future, we're going to replicate the past, and we're going to replicate the harms we see in the past. So, as you can see here in this cartoon, that was drawn by another person on our team, Jessica Yurkovsky. The person here on the left-hand side of the image is rich, and guess what? They're getting richer. And the person on the right side just had a tree fall on their house, and they're getting poorer. And what we see is that people who have already benefited from the way society is set up are poised to benefit more and more as we have algorithms that predict who can get a mortgage, who gets credit, whether the government will give you a loan, even whether you can get a job. Sometimes algorithmically is determined by where you went to school, or what gender you are, or what your name is. And we need to be cautious about the systems that we're using to make these predictions so that we don't exaggerate the disparities of the past, but rather try to mitigate them. And with that, Kasia will share more about what it is that we work on.
Thank you. Yeah. And so, of course, once again, congratulations. Kasia Chmielinski is a co-founder of the Data Nutrition Project, an initiative that builds the tools to improve the health and artificial intelligence through better data. So that's, I think, idea of that. And previously, they worked as a technologist at McKinsey Company and as a U.S. Digital Service Executive Office of the President and Scratch project of MIT Media Lab, lifelong kindergarten group. And I was very interested in also your diversity of background to include from science and also creative policy and education. So how can we build better artificial intelligence from your experience?
Great, thank you. Thanks for inviting us. We're really excited to be on this panel answering just a few very small questions. So in terms of building better artificial intelligence, the way that our group thinks about this, we're a very interdisciplinary group of researchers, technologists, and artists. We came together over a question that was very similar to the one that you asked us, which was how to build more ethical artificial intelligence. This was in 2018. And very quickly, all of us came to the same conclusion, which is that we need to start with the data. And oftentimes, we're really looking at the output of the algorithm, and we're saying, oh no, bad things are happening, right? So people are getting rejected from jobs or applications, or they're being discriminated against in terms of public benefits or whatever it might be. But what we're not looking at enough are the inputs, because ultimately AI systems are only as good as the data that they're trained on. So our group, actually to kind of very nicely transition also from Martina's presentation about food, decided to also leverage metaphor and design to answer this question. So the metaphor that we use is a nutrition label, like what you find on a package of food. If I want to eat a cookie, right, I can look at the package and I can decide whether or not that's healthy for my body. Today, there's no way to do that with data. So you find a data set or you buy a data set, there's no way to look at what's inside and determine whether it's healthy before you use it. In fact, what you do is you use it first and then you figure out whether it was healthy. So what we've done is actually consider a nutrition label for data sets, and that's what you see here on the right-hand side. And the time that we would expect someone to encounter our label is actually within the model pipeline at the very beginning, before they actually have built anything. Because we also know from industry that by the time you know something's wrong with your model, it's too late. Probably a lot of money has gone into it, a lot of time, and you kind of can't go back to the beginning to try it again. So that's our intervention, and our hope is that our project and many others like us who are out there in the ecosystem, we're not the only ones, can help to facilitate data practitioners to select and use data better, so that AI systems can also be better.
Right. Then of course, typically, so-called AI robotics conference, this kind of group. But today, different. This is a very interesting point of this, very unique intersection of Ars Electronica. I'm very happy to introduce Ben-Ary and also the group, Nathan Thompson as well. Ben-Ary is an artistic researcher at the University of Western Australia, and Guy creates artworks designed to problematize engagement biotechnologies, influence on the shifting forces in life, death, and sentience. So I saw your project, I think in 2018, for the first time. It was human external brain cell music collaboration in a way at the Post City, and you got the honorary mention in 2017. And also now we are working together for the project lead application workshop. It's a kind of virtual intelligence. So then he's really super interesting pioneers of this in a way life art, I would say. As you can imagine, life science is already established in many universities, but we don't have yet about life art course. But your place, Symbiotica, as well, is the best case example about life art. So sorry, I'm always behind this slide. Sorry. So please. Then my question is, what is life?
Small question. First of all, thank you for inviting us. We're very excited to be here among our peers. So, I think that we're living in a, really exciting times, unprecedented times, where biological technologies and where we're starting to kind of produce using biological technologies to grow and create various models of living our lives that are different to what we know that is alive. Our definitions of what is alive has changed in the last couple of years, or 20 years, or even more, because of the involvement of biotechnologies and because of the newly acquired knowledge that enabled us to kind of shorten the time of the manipulation of time. Biological technologies, or what I would refer to as biological alchemy, raises questions in regards to our ability to deconstruct bodies into the basic building blocks of life, and then manipulate them, and then reassemble them in a completely new way. So, the potentiality of life lies dormant in the ambiguity of human material. Life is not a clear-cut, linear, and final definition. Rather than that, life is elastic and encapsulates, I would say, evocative continuum. So our definitions of lives are changing. We have only one word to describe what life is, and I don't think that it's enough. I think that there's some sort of a lack in our language. There's a taxonomic void, or there's kind of lacking vocabulary to describe these kind of those liminal lives that we create in labs and in the future are going to be around us. I would like to also mention that Nathan and myself's work is focusing on neuroscience and kind of growing in vitro brains. And this image that you see on the screen here is a stained slice of an organoid that we have been growing in the lab that originated from biological material that was given to us by the great late composer Alvin Lucier. And it's a project that maybe Nathan is going to describe in a second, but what I wanted to say about that is that our work surrounds around the growing in vitro brains. So there are not brains as we know them, and our work cannot be categorized as artificial intelligence that is based on silica. It can't be categorized as natural intelligence that is based on evolution. The brains or the brain organoids or the neural networks that we grow that control or being embodied by the robotic bodies that we create, we refer to them as in vitro intelligence. An alternative approach to artificial intelligence that is looking at the possibilities of creating intelligence or the possibility of the emergence of intelligence in the future from biological components that are grown outside of the body and originated from various donors.
Then to Nathan, I have a straightforward question, but I'm gonna explain to the background. Nathan Thompson is a multidisciplinary artist exploring the possibility of man-machine interaction and hidden corners that arise from relation. And together with Guy, he works at the University of Western Australia. And I'm kind of, in a way, super inspired from your new project, Recourage. Actually, the slide itself is same, but maybe you can explain the project itself. But also, my question to you is, what is creativity?
Another good question. Thank you so much for having us. It's really an honor to be here. Yeah, I'll explain probably a little bit. I'll take the question first and then explain. To create is to be human, and to be human is to create, I think. From time immemorial, I think we have developed and built and honed objects in order for us to better understand the world that we live in and to help us navigate the changing world around us in a better way. The research that Guy and I do together is basically trying to understand these in vitro intelligent entities and the possibilities that they have. And whether once the brain has been disembodied from our human body, can it continue to create for us? So this creation of a brain that's disembodied from us has the ability to still produce cultural artifacts in a way that is linked to us as a biological donor. There's some sort of filament of memory that can be changed from a donated cell and then changed to a living organoid or neural organoid. We want to explore these things as cultural creators ourselves. So the idea that a living entity can create things for us as a performer for our proxy, we needed to also think of a new terminology. And the terminology that we've come up for, this bioengineered living entity, is a surrogate performer. So the artwork that we made, Bricolage, is a surrogate performer that performs for its anonymous donor in the gallery space indefinitely. So in the future, we hope and we suppose that as a society, we welcome these alien life forms, these displaced life forms, and these fragmented life forms, because the changing world demands that we are more humane with welcoming new entities into our space. Rather than seeing these cultural objects that we are making as just objects merely to learn from, we see these surrogate performers as artifacts sent back to us from our potential future.
And as you realize, all members, they are, I would say, experts for aliens, in many senses, right? Because we never met such metaphor, AI, robot, and also this biological entity. And humans are exploring a new humanity through the discovery of technology. So, and I found the mirror in a way. You guys are creating a mirror to reflect yourself. Ishiguro is the best example that defines our home. So whether it is a robot, artificial intelligence, or biotechnology, we can find our desires, fears, and hopes in it. So once again, welcome to Planet B, because it's a time to discuss what is humanity on our Planet B. And I have tons of questions, and you guys as well, but I'm trying to kind of navigate this very challenging discussions as my kind of journalistic perspective. I'm not a journalist though, but as an artist, I would like to have, ask many questions to you guys. First, I would like to start to talk about Planet B itself, because of course everyone has their own ideas about Planet B. But my question, maybe Kasia, absolutely, I'm just jumping on, I would like to know your ideas or your impression. What was a Planet A? And what is Planet B? What is going to be Planet B? So what is a Planet B? So again, what was a Planet A? And what is a Planet B?
So this is the fun part where these are the questions we haven't heard yet.
Sorry, I'm
No, it's great. Keep us on our toes. Let's see, so Planet A, I feel like we live in Planet A, so I don't know that I need to describe it too much, except to say that I think there's a very clear connection between planet A and planet B. And so I think the danger is that when we think of planet B, we think, okay, this is something that has no relation to the present. It's totally new. It's gonna come in a new package, we're gonna unwrap it, we've never seen it before, no one knows what it looks like. But the reality is that if we're making planet B, it's gonna look exactly like planet A, unless we do something different. So I think that's my very quick answer to your question.
Great. Yeah, then I'm gonna ask same question to Guy, you.
I hope that planet B is going to be a bit different, but I do agree with you that where the humans are and when the humans can work together, the chances are that it's going to look very similar. However, in continuation to what I said before, I think that we're going to have kind of a wider range of entities that are going to live with us, and I hope that it would force us to relate to the other in a different way. So it's not only that we know that we have to do it, it's the reality that is going to be formed around us would kind of force us to kind of treat the other with a bit more respect. I mean, we're humans, we're very cocky, we think that we know everything, and we think that we've done everything. And I think that in the future we learn very fast that it's not true, that those lives that are kind of growing around us, those living on lives, we're not superior to them, we're not controlling them, and I hope that the attitude toward them or the kind of relation to them will be much more humane.
And so, as me, I'm not native English background, but looking at the English term human nature is quite inspiring to me. How humans try to find humanity from nature in the in the tradition in the past. So that was kind of combinations. But as you explained today, we are now living in human second nature, created by people. So Anthropocene stuff is one of the typical discussion though. But if we live on second nature or technosphere, maybe to Hiroshi and Nelson, I'm going to ask this question. If we live on such a second nature and technosphere, what would we plan to be like?
So you mean the planet B is our features? Or?
Well, in this context, of course, planet A, planet B is not connecting, and it might be mirror each other.
Okay. Okay.
So meaning A and B might be a metaphor to reflect, each other. But maybe to you, what I want to ask is, you said today when I met him, he told me I will make planet B. This was the first kind of comment from him to this discussion. Just to let me know your ideas. How I think audience is very interested in your insights about your vision.
So I think we need to be free from our both constraint of bodies and biological bodies, right? So by replacing our body with a machine, we can be free. That is a kind of Cambrian explosion. So how we can have another Cambrian explosion, right? If we can, this is a constraint. I want to have more hands and more legs, and more, if we use the technologies, we can enhance our body properties. We can enhance our sensitivities, and then we work, and I can use your bodies, right? So if we connect my brain with the brain-machine interface. We can share the bodies. That is, the human evolution. That is the planet B for me, right? So, so the body is just a constraint. Biological body is a constraint. We want to be free from that, and then that we can have a real evolution.
Yeah. And so your technique approach is robotics and engineering, but you have different approach. For touching to the nature. Right?
It's very, very different approach, but it's not an opposing approach. It's something that through the years that Guy and I have worked together, we've realized that it's a parallel approach that crosses over, it superimposes over. One of the interesting things that you mentioned is about the human nature, and we have to analyze why we use that word. and perhaps we have to think about our connection with nature and the importance of it, that it's been something that's happening in the world around us for over 4 billion years. And so, which means when we talk about a technosphere or a planet that's the planet B, something that's no longer the same as the planet we live on now, when we think about the reality of the situation that we've only been here as humans for 20 million or 2 million, then there's 4 billion years head start on our knowledge building. So to place lots of importance on the technosphere is important for one, but also perhaps it's actually disregarding our connections to the nature that has brought us up. So a reconnection to nature, and as a result, a reconnection to human nature, is the only way that I think a technosphere can actually be successful on planet B. So my mention of a superimposition of the parallel approaches that biology has with technology, or hard technology, rather than the wet technology the guy and I work with. It's not other and all. It's actually something that actually produces work in synergy and in a trajectory that goes in the same way, but with equal respect. Yeah? So Planet B is a hope that synergy between nature of Planet B, wherever it may be, is as acute and as nuanced as it should be for us to continue unhindered by the resource rarities.
So now we are on the planet B, in a way, as a kind of perspective and sceneries, how we could share it. Then so I'm gonna move to more context, humanity side, inside. So I'm gonna discuss with you basic human needs. So to Martina and Newman, I want to ask those questions. One question is, what is humanity doing on that planet? Do you have any speculation?
Oh God. Oh my God, yeah. I'm still thinking about this planet A and planet B thing. I don't even know if there is some planet A or plan A, as I could read on that tablet. I think we just didn't have any plans so far, right? Everything was just created by for personal profit, more or less. And now we have tons of problems and need to come up with solutions. We need a plan, we need a vision of a planet B, and we need to think about what this vision could look like. Because I think it's really important to come up with this narrative, like how, or very concrete images of how can a positive future on this, what we now call planet B, look like. Otherwise we keep in this avoiding perspective, but we need something we can reach at. We need this vision, a positive future, and then we need to ask how can we come there. And in general, very generally, I think we also need to ask, what do all these technologies that we work on help in solving all these problems, right? And yeah.
You say, I don't know, is this my voice? Recently, I used to have time to read a lot of books, like literature, what's the meaning of the role of literature? And also, your artwork, your robot is kind of tangible literature, right? So I thought, according to Newman, if you have any ideas, what is humanity doing on that planet B, including some hints and inspirations for shaping the planet B, if you have any ideas, would be great.
Sure. So a couple of things that I wanted to note, and maybe we can circle back to, is one is Hiroshi's note about us freeing ourselves from the body, because that gets me thinking about whether one would want immortality. And so if we have time to circle back, I'd be curious if you would like to be immortal, because I think if we start to think about getting free of the physical limits, then we're talking about being immortal, which I think to a lot of people is not a prospect that's enticing. So let's see if that's Planet B. I hope not personally. But it also gets me thinking about how much agency we have, or whether there's free will at all. Another point that was made earlier was about there being no difference between humanity and robotinity, and I think one could make that case, especially if we are also just, a different sort of biological machine where we have no agency. I guess what I'll leave this with in terms of answering your actual question is, I don't know if humans are great for the planet. So if we're thinking about life that goes beyond just human life, I think this question presupposes that humans are the most important species and that we should be preserving humans above all else. If you think about all the other species that we have among us, that we are living among, that we're part of, including plants, including fungi, including, of course, other animals, and seeing ourselves as part of evolution, I don't know if at all costs we want to think about creating a world in which there are humans and nothing else.
Yeah, recently we discussed within the lab the importance of not human-centered design, but planet-centered design, for instance. Have you ever researched? We are happy to collaborate with you guys. But I want to develop more about core value, and also I want to ask Akane and Kasia concerning, based on this role, what are the core values for humanity?
I think the new animal will be maybe machine. But human movement shows up maybe a perfect machine. So, but it shows up movement that only human can do will remain. So it doesn't matter what materials or machines are used. And differences between robots and humans maybe disappears. So the human movement on planet B is maybe rich, and everybody part is a mean of expression and it is I think it's the art of living. So the relationship between human or robots, like animal in planet B, maybe will be together more.
So meaning this symbiosis, feeding might be the core value in your sense. But maybe I'm going to ask Kasia the same question. What are the core values for humanity on planet B? Do we want to stay alive, or do we want to die, or
I feel like I have a lot of power right now. Core values on planet B. I think something that seems true to me is that our values have changed over time. And so I think that probably the shift from planet A to planet B provides us with an opportunity to change our core values. And I'm going to kind of not answer the question because I don't know what those values are, but there have been some values that I've heard from other people that maybe I can just amplify. So one was kind of the commercial core value that has brought us in many parts to this place. I also heard some really interesting words from the folks on the end here, talking about respect. And I think that's really interesting in the context of life forms, given that we haven't shown a lot of respect to life forms that are around us here, but the expectation is maybe we'll have respect for ones that we create, which I think is very interesting. I think relativity is also something that's come up here, and kind of how humans can extend themselves and what that might look like. So I don't know exactly what the core values are, but I think there are some that are emerging already from among the panelists, and I think this is a good opportunity for us to identify a new set of core values, because it seems like our previous core values maybe didn't work out so well.
I think creating such core values and also narrative, stories, art has very powerful role, right? And so I think today, some people are from scientific background working in the universities, I would like to, of course, I can continue to deepen this to spirituality and all things, but I think it's nice time to talk a little bit more role of, do you want to say something?
I just want to add one thing, is that I agree with you with the respect and compassion, but I wanted to just tell you that in the work bricolage that you mentioned before, when we were thinking about how do we exhibit and how do we show those entities, automatons, those alien kind of entities that we created, biological robots that were made from cardiomyocytes. They were made from heart muscle cells that were growing on sheets of silk to create an entity that actually could perform or had a distinct behavior, swimming in this sea of media. Our decision that we made when we thought about how do we do it is to create an incubator, to create this kind of installation that would be hung above viewers' heads. And the reason for that was that we wanted to kind of highlight the fact that humans are not, humans always kind of have this kind of sense of superiority over other kind of beings and entities. We wanted to kind of contrast that by putting those entities that we grow above human hands to challenge these perceptions of humans.
And then also, why he's speaking about this is because of his daily practice in symbiotica. Symbiotica is a very unique intersection, art and science, and I'm going to talk about the role of art because your university is not the art university. And also for audience, many artists are here. I would like to discuss a little bit, role of art. I'm going to ask Martina, Hiroshi, and also Yuma as well. So I think in your daily lives, you have many also challenges in scientific domains or in academic domains. Then so you are now working with artists. Also you are doing very interesting interdisciplinary collaboration by having artists in the lab, or simply art is a part of the program. So in your experiences, also you have artists. So I think this kind of second, not a second opinion, but doing together with artists is going to be very important key role for developing art and science. So what, in your experiences, what can art do?
Yeah, I think first of all, for creating this vision for Planet B, we urgently need more interdisciplinarity, or we need more diverse collaboration in general, because the more diverse the people are who create the future, the better it will hopefully be for different people, right? Hopefully. So in general, I think bringing together people from different backgrounds, with different mindsets, different needs also, is extremely important. And fortunately, I see a trend in this direction, right? But I think still, many academic researchers are quite hesitating to collaborate with the arts. Myself, I'm socialized in Ars Electronica, so for me, like for 10 years, this was completely normal. As maybe a researcher or an interdisciplinary person myself, to collaborate with all kinds of people, ranging from artists to marketing people from companies and hackers and activists. And it is extremely valuable. And I think the role of art is, as always, to change perspective, but it can also help very much in creating this future narrative. Like I'm thinking of, for example, speculative design methods, right? Or value fiction, for example, to come up with this alternative values for future societies and so on. So to make us imagine alternative realities. I think this is what art can do among many other things.
And Hiroshi, for instance, you have tons of many artists visiting to your laboratory, and
Right.
it's your curation, right? You are the curator.
Right. Well, basically, I'm an engineer originally, but in order to find the new ideas, we really need the artistic mind. That is the reason why I'm collaborating with the artists like scenario writers, the theater director, like Orida Hirata. We made so many Android theater and robot theater so far, more than 10 or 20, right? And then they are become very popular in the world. And we could learn a lot of things from the artists. Artists always doing something new without any reasons. But they can show the performance. Then we're gonna carefully investigate what's happened there, right? So that, and then we can apply the engineering approach. Art is a driving force for finding a new ideas and developing new things. And then today I'm working with Akane. Akane is a professional of Shosa. Shosa is a quite interdisciplinary multimodal way of communications. So we can communicate in many different ways, right? So I want to give this kind of Shosa to the Android and develop the I want to find the new ideas how we can make the Android much better than the human. So anyway, so art is the driving force, the science and the engineering.
Well, I am an artist in addition to the other work I do, so of course I love this question. And of course I think there's probably a lot of artists here, and Ars Electronica clearly appreciates the value of the arts. I mean, it's the whole festival. But just to add to these other terrific answers, I would say that art today is deeply researched, as I'm sure you all know, in a way that some people don't realize. I mean, artists are scholars, and I'm sure as you're seeing the work of this festival, you notice that. And so it's almost a false distinction to see artists as separate when art is a different kind of scholarship and a different kind of research. So I would say that's one. The second thing is that art is terrific at asking questions, especially questions that don't have answers, or questions that we don't have the answer to yet. And successful art can just simply be asking a good question, whereas in other disciplines you need an answer to get published or to get noticed, and in art you don't. And so I think between the deep research and the asking of questions, and then the other things that my co-panelists said, those are some of the values of art.
Can I just add one? I want to add just one thing that I see art as being important for is artists are uniquely positioned to be critical about things. They're generally not conditioned by financial restraints or institutional cancel culture, or anything that's guiding them to be forced for the success of their career. Institutionalized knowledge building can be also driven in directions for profit and also for particular end means that may not be kind to the outcome. So what they say about artists is that the best thing about art is that you can discuss dangerous issues in a safe environment. And that's one of the values I think of art is that it can steer clear of these biases, or can help to steer clear of things that are driven in a direction that otherwise could be free from.
I think how to create free space, and art should be free, and so this is a definitely clear statement. And I would like to ask Akane and also Guy, the latest your findings, what are the challenges at the intersection of art and science? Because for Akane, maybe together with this guy, Mr. Crazy super person, in every collaboration you are quite confused, right? And these scientists and your artists, and of course it's a free space. But I just want to know your experience. What are the challenges at the intersection of art and science through the collaboration with Ishiguro?
I'm just thinking about what is like humanity or harmony. And I think, and maybe I wanna, how can we launch like movement or something important to move and like focusing on every movement. So for example, be sensitive to changing of the season and the movement of nature. I think everything is moving, and even now, no human things. So with doing so, we will be able to pay even more attention to human movement. So,
Which means you don't have any issues working with him.
yeah, that's the one. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice combination. Yeah, sometimes these combinations are working very well, and the balance between art and science are always the effective creative collisions process, right? So to guide your, as I introduced today to the audience, you are from Symbiotica. Symbiotica has tons of know-how in such creative collisions between art and the science. Would you tell us about what the challenges you found in the intersection of art and science?
Well, I first of all, I feel very lucky that I am part of Symbiotica, and I have been there for 20 years. Because being in Symbiotica for such a long time made the kind of biological interface, the knowledge, the approach to the scientist in the institution quite easy for me. But I can see, Symbiotica is open for residencies, for artists that are coming all over the world, and I can see the challenges that they have in various kind of ways. First of all, we all have great ideas, and then there's the questions of feasibility. There's the questions of the understanding, the nitty-gritty, the details of the scientific research to understand whether your ideas are feasible or not. Then there's the challenges of the interface, the biological interface that is totally different to what artists kind of are used to them. There's DIY spaces, and you can do some fungus work and even a little bit of bacterial work. But if you really want to work with more complex protocols, tissue culture, tissue engineering, molecular biology, you really need a lab that is set up. Scientists couldn't do it without set up labs as well. It's not only artists, but they, because of the nature of their work, they have those kind of labs and shared facilities that are open for them. So without actually having some sort of institutional welcome or kind of place, artists can't really engage with complex protocols. They need to depend on the very, very few organizations such as Symbiotica. There's just a few of them around the world to welcome them in, to train them, and to get them to do residencies so they can actually explore hands-on, get the phenomenological experience of hands-on work in biological labs, and then it kind of goes to the time scale of biology. You can't just come for a residency for a month or even 6 months and complete the work. You really, and this is why I feel so lucky, because I have a job there, so I can do it. It's not that I'm better or worse or know more. I'm there. You really need a lot of time. Experiments in the science world, they take years and years and years. You just repeat and repeat, and you can see what's happening. And artists kind of engage with that as well. Nathan and myself, every project that we develop is minimum of 3 to 4 years until from kind of getting the idea and kind of putting it out there. So, it's really access to facilities, access to knowledge, finding friendly scientists. It's kind of getting easier, but it is a challenge as well. And the time to kind of work in this facility. I'll just kind of add one more thing. I don't want to take too much time with that. There's a lot of challenges. But when you do work in those, in science science faculties, departments in our school, there's a lot of people that kind of look at this research, the artistic research as weird, maybe a waste of funding, maybe a waste of time. Some of them are very excited about it and really wholeheartedly engage in the artistic or cultural research, but a lot of them are kind of trying to kind of push back because there's a lot of academics here, and there's always kind of the fight for funding, who gets it, who does what, so there's always some sort of tension between the artists and that are just visiting. Symbiotica is really unique because we formalized the relationship with the School of Human Sciences, we formalized our relationship with the Faculty of Science, and we formalized our relationship with the university. So when you're a resident there, you don't need to be careful. You don't need to kind of say, well, if you don't use it, I will use the microscope. No, there's booking systems. If you're in, you're in. You don't need to be apologetic. You don't need to be to apologize for the fact that you're an artist, not a scientist. There's research there, whether scientists or artists. The school, the culture within the school accept the artist as one of them, and it's very unique, and therefore we feel very lucky.
Can I ask also Nathan, also your past, also you are from the same area, but you are artist, being more, you might have another perspective, in the latest situation of Symbiotica. I'm quite interested in the development in 20 years and also for the future directions. What do you think?
The future direction of art science collaborations, or future sense of
about your
the lab?
Art and science. I'm going to talk lab itself after this, but
okay.
Art and science.
It kind of touches on what I mentioned before. There's always this angle as well. There's this disconnect between what we're free to do and what we're allowed to do, and what is financially feasible to do. All these things are kind of can be restrictions, and I think when thinking about the future of what is our research endeavors or the human endeavor as a whole, I think the pulling down of barriers and the barrier to entry being cost, or the barrier to entry being access, it needs to be removed as much as possible. So I'd hope the future of people working with the life sciences would be that they can freely access it, be it working in a lab or being even just to access the data itself that's being produced by the work. Whether the scientists or the scholars are producing data, it shouldn't be solely owned by them or solely controlled by them. I think it would be ideal if there's some kind of open access that even people that are remotely interested but not studied or not academically researched themselves can use the data or use the valued work that has been produced by technicians, by scientists, or even by artists, and freely accessible in a way that can be used however they like. So to give them free access without, without any strings attached or things like that. The ideal situation would be complete freedom of the data that's available. And I hope that's the way that it continues in Planet B.
Okay, and it's nice time to maybe shift this to system discussion a little bit because as I advertised at the beginning, we are from Futurelab. Futurelab needed to be constantly, reframe and make our role and our system itself. Recently, we are talking about, shall we shift our name, Future's Lab S, not just Future Lab, So this is just a kind of one of the hints to discuss. Then I'm going to ask Martina and Hiroshi, from your current position as universities. And this year, we, as Ars Electronica, we have, Festival University for Transformation. And it's quite an interesting model, to redefine the role of university. So for you, what is a lab of the future? What kind of a platform system is needed to discuss future humanity? What do you think, Hiroshi?
The collaboration with artists is very, very important for me. So that is quite obvious, right? So if we can see the very high quality art, right? Of course, we can find some principle there, right? As the engineering and or science. But the one more thing is philosophy, right? Philosophy or some ethical, the perspective is going to be quite important, because after this, we need to design humans and this planet by ourselves. We can manipulate the genes. That means we can design the human itself, and we have a lot of power to destroy this planet many times. That means we have a responsibility to control the ecosystems by ourselves. Right? We need to design our future by ourselves. Then I think the philosophies and the social science and the ethics they're very, very important. We need to always work together. Actually, I'm hiring the 3 philosophers in my lab. Right? So my lab is currently consists of 70 or 80 people, and 3 of them the pure philosophers. And then, of course, we have a neuroscientist and the psychologist, a social scientist. That kind of the combination is very important.
Very interesting. Actually, this time we got such many discussions about the importance of philosophers. Sorry, and also Martina, you are from here, and also you collaborate with many external people. And one inspiration from Hiroshi was the importance of philosophy. What kind of system maybe needed in your kind of ideas?
Yeah, definitely a more open system and more collaborative. I think sharing of data and results is fortunately getting much more importance now. For example, in psychology, which I would call my main discipline, it's getting much more common to share all the data, to be much more transparent than in the past about what you actually do. And I already talked about the need for interdisciplinarity and more diverse teams creating the future. So and maybe another aspect. I think that probably in a few years we also will have to argue how our work could help to save this planet, to save our future, and maybe even argue how we use energy resources, why we need this particular extremely complex neural net for our research. Couldn't we do it with simpler methods? How much energy is needed? I think in the future we will have to argue much more why we use resources.
But in this case, I want to extend this discussion to you both about art, science, and policy, because to shape for better planet, and the real policy is a quite important point. So to you both, I'm going to ask. So how do we form social rules and norms? Because this is quite, of course, in many ways, like by having such experiment in the lab, we can maybe make a prototype or kind of subject so that people can stop to think. Because what we are talking about is not for quick answers, right? Rather, we needed time, like maybe 10 years or 20 years, like such kind of level of social questions necessary now, right? Not just okay, do it now quickly or something like this. It's all about ourselves. So then maybe you might have your also thoughts on how do we form such social rules and norms.
Well, this is a hard one. I think one thing I'm going to add to the previous, as a director, as one of the directors of a lab, creative lab at Harvard, one thing I wanted to add to the previous is who gets to participate. And Martina already mentioned this somewhat, but I feel like so many of us, all of us probably, are here because, in some ways, because of circumstances that were well outside of our control. The education we received, where we were born, a lot of other things. I won't speak for individuals in this room, but there's a lot of people who don't get to be in university and don't get to have the prestige and the opportunity that, especially the universities represented here. So So I think the lab of the future, as other people have touched on, needs to be much more inclusive than we think about now. Much, much more, because there's a lot of brilliant ideas and brilliant people and creative people who we're not getting the opportunity to meet and learn from because of the way society is structured. So moving into policy, I will turn it over to Kasia.
Surprise. Yeah, really good question. I mean, I think from the perspective of what we're seeing, just, you know, our small door into the conversation, which is about data and the collection of data, the opening of data. A lot of the folks that we talk to are internally motivated to try to do the right thing. And so I think that's maybe a glimmer of hope that I can throw into the conversation, which is that there are a lot of people who are trying to do the right thing, and I think there's kind of a grassroots effort to say, give us the tools and the standards and the means and the power and the agency by which to do better. I think that we're also going to need top-down efforts. That's, I don't know if that's a DNP stance, but it's like a Kasia stance. Because I think it's not enough to be ground up, you also need some top down. And the way that I think about this is, you know, rules and regulations and norms that are set by governing bodies or groups of people, you know, cultures or tribes or nations that end up kind of raising the floor for everybody. So if you still want to be a bad actor, you will find a way to be a bad actor. But this maybe raises the ground that we're walking on, so that we're at least starting at a better norm. So I think that definitely governing bodies have something to do with setting social norms. I also think we haven't talked a lot about youth, and I'm now ready to admit that I'm not young anymore. And I had the great fortune of working at the MIT Media Lab on a project called Scratch for several years. And that is an online coding community of mostly young people globally. And it was really fascinating to kind of be there to guide young people and be guided by young people and the things that they want to do and the things they want to see. And I think that's just a piece of the conversation we haven't really touched on, which is the role of young people in all of this, and how I think that they also need to be added to this diversity in the lab of the future.
Do you know my script? Because my next final, sorry, yes, please, quick, yeah. It's okay.
I just kind of, you know, the word policy always really scares me. It's something that I think that we have art, and we're practicing art to also negate a policy in some ways. Because the question is, who makes the policy, and what sort of questions are they asking, and who's leading the way in kind of determining policy, and is it not bringing us back to Planet A? Is it not bringing us back to what it was always there? It's like what Newman said. It's like, who has access to the knowledge? And I think that art needs to almost like break that. I mean, almost like resist policy in some way, and democratize the knowledge, the acquired knowledge, and then try to kind of rebuild it from top, bottom up.
Sorry, I have just a quick response, which is if you don't make it explicit, I worry it will become implicit. And then the same people who have the power today will end up having the power tomorrow. So I agree that it's not ideal to necessarily prescribe something, but I do think that it will happen. So I prefer that it be in the open and transparent, rather than something that just gets decided behind closed doors.
Yeah, I think the force that actually changes policy is public literacy, right? So the idea that people are more literate in a given problem can project a change of policy. So as art creators or as culture creators, we have the chance to actually change the dialogue or change the vocabulary in order for the literacy of the general public to push forward.
Can I go to the final corner? Because part to warm up. Because my final corner category is education and futures literacy. So I'm gonna ask Hiroshi and Akane. So what kind of mindset should we have in the 21st century? So tell us.
Well, I just I wanted to mention about these guys' opinions about I want to say that don't worry, if we do the good things and if we show the high performance, we don't need to worry about the society so much. That is the role of artists and scientists, right? Always, we are doing some unusual things, right? We cannot apply, the current ethics and the current, a kind of a common sense of a society, right? So we are out of common sense. Right? So that is what I want to say that. So that is the most important.
To have the common sense in terms of
we don't need
mindset, right?
No. So in order to do something new, just ignore this society. Right? Yeah. And then just ignore the common sense. Just ignore. Right? So framework, if we look at the framework, we cannot do the new things, right? So if we break the framework, we can do the new things. So this is the best education, I believe.
Akane, so what did you learn from Ishiguro about the new mindset for future?
For the future, I think we must have like multidisciplinary vision, maybe for education especially. So yeah, I think I agree with Mr. Ishiguro also, but maybe the culture and science and art, I have a multi-vision. We have to have that kind of vision. So yeah, I think that is really important.
And you also there talking about the Showa and the harmony. And the harmony is on the other hand is quite important, right?
So meaning of both this distraction and harmonizing.
We need to find those many kinds of connections between the human and nature. That is what she's doing.
So Newman and Martina. So what you are educated, right? And so what kinds of education is needed if you have something like this?
Well, I'm appreciating the various provocations that are being offered, in part because I think it depends on what we're talking about when we're critiquing any of these things. Like when we're critiquing policy, like if I said, I built this airplane here in my backyard, it's not following any of the rules of gravity or certainly of the aviation law, who would like to come in my airplane? Okay. So I think when it comes to actual safety and reduction of harm, there are really valuable things that we do want to remember that we've learned and take those into the future. In terms of education, I mentioned this before, talking about art. I think asking good questions is one of two things that is really important in education. So asking good questions, asking hard questions, thinking about questions that don't have answers or don't have answers yet, and empowering students and young people and whomever to be searching for questions, and then finding those questions and articulating them. I would say that is one. And because the world in which we're becoming educated and educating is changing so quickly, because we all have in our pocket so much knowledge and so much data, I think the other thing that we can be doing as educators is helping individuals learn how they learn best. So we're all different kinds of learners. We used to have just textbooks that were kind of standardized for one kind of learner, but now we have things that are visual and audio at fast speed and audio at slow speed and in text and multimedia and tangible. And each student, as the most important thing you can learn is how you learn best. And once you learn that, you're learning always.
Yeah, usually I would answer this question, I think, with, referring to 21st century skills, and there are many great published things, and, we need to foster creativity and AI literacy, digital literacy, storytelling, and so on. But I think we also need to educate people, maybe to ourselves, so to say, to become more human, more caring, how to take on more differential perspectives of entities on this planet. Empathy, so to say, but caring for others, not only the people that directly sit next to us in the office or our neighbors and like us visually and mind-wise, but also for people who are different and people who live at Marshall Islands, for example, and the islands get flooded, as we heard yesterday in the festival opening ceremony. So I think we need to educate people to create a humanity that is more human than today before we start to creating robots that are more human than us.
Yeah, looking at the also AI education data set, it's very similar to what we are also influenced. So in this case, this education is very important. Maybe to one question to Kasia. Sorry, I'm always so I speed a question that are connecting to education and also literacy. So what kinds of future literacy, future's literacy is required to be human?
Yeah, I just wanted you to hear me thinking. Yeah, I think that future literacy will require maybe several forms of resiliency, just considering what's probably coming ahead, what's already here. One is, I think, the normalizing of failure. As someone who I studied physics, but I grew up in a family filled with artists, so you can just imagine how that went. I think there's really different cultural ideas of failure and success. And it's so dangerous when we think failure is bad. Because we're gonna fail a lot as we try to figure out how to solve some of the problems that are ahead of us. And so I think we need to become literate in failing and seeing that as an opportunity to try again. You'll notice, scientific papers are only published when they're successful. That means that we don't get to learn from our failures because no one talks about them, right? And this is a huge waste of time and efficiency and productivity, and also opportunities to teach other people if we don't ever talk about our failures. And I think another form of literacy is going to be, let's see, I guess the word for it is resiliency. It's kind of maybe what we've learned a bit through the pandemic, which is problem-solving skills, which sounds very basic, but I think it's actually quite hard. And it's a hard thing to measure, and it's a hard thing to teach. And so I think our literacy, I don't think it's going to be, can you read something or can you use this technology? It's going to be, with the tools that you have, are you able to successfully approach the problems ahead of you, and then when you fail, get back up and do it again?
Thank you. So actually, time is so fast, and I forgot to have the QA. but of course, it's important to involve you guys, and I'd like to ask if you have any question. I will have one or two questions. Oh, Manuel Serguson, please.
I'm getting back to the planet A and B thing. I'm getting back to the planet A and B thing. For me, it's very much a question of who are the decision makers. And we are the decision makers. And we're on planet A. So the conclusion for me is we're going to stay on planet A as long as we're the decision makers. So we're going to have to implement systems, if we want change, that can take the decision making away from us. So we want to approach a technical, a biological, or a techno-biological singularity. Now, are you willing to put your efforts into that? I didn't mean to kill you.
He's directing the question to the AI guys, the robot guys, or the bio guys?
Well, because I think both topics have the potential. If you take a xenobot and put a brain organoid in it, pretty soon you're going to have something where you don't have to do anything to it, where it can make decisions and it can replicate itself and all these things. Similar settings for the AI people. So it's.
You go.
Sorry. Somebody has still to define the rules or the goals or the data for the system, right? So this is probably still us as decision makers.
I would just answer quickly, and no, I would not put my energy into that. I think it's very dangerous for some subset of people to try to build something that are going to take power away from humans and not be sure what would happen next. So, I mean, of course that's science fiction right now, but I wouldn't put my energy into that. I think it's important to have guardrails for technologies, just like it's important to have guardrails for human power.
I agree with the different point. So the planet A, almost controlled by a computer already. Right? The planet A and planet B, the boundary is so unclear for me. Right? And who is a decision maker? I would say, in the current planet A, it's probably 70%, 80% the computer. Right? And then, but on the other hand, maybe the planet B, I don't know what kind of decision making system we have, but we can clearly separate. Right? And the human decision making and the computer decision making.
Maybe one more question?
A quick remark. So we all understand the benefits, I guess, of having artists and philosophers also in research and technological-oriented research. I am trained as both, let's say, an engineer and an artist. And this is me personally, but I think maybe a lot of people share the same feeling. We want to have artists and philosophers kind of open up our minds and pose questions. But once Ishiguro Sensei talks about we should abandon our physical bodies at some point, and we should break away with the old frameworks, we all feel kind of shocked. And I think maybe that's a good thing. We have to enact, there's changes we want to enact, but these changes have to be enacted on world systems, beliefs, religions, regulations, and expectations that exist already, and we have to sort of change the boat while we're sailing on the boat. And to pose this more as a question is, how do you feel about this? How do we approach this? And how do we choose what to keep and what to throw away at this point?
Well, I think we're going to have a totally different religion, totally different philosophy. That is the human evolution. So I'm, quite exciting for the thinking about that, right? And probably the current planet A is boring, right? So we want to have a more exciting world. Right? If we can be free from this, constraint, body constraint, the biological constraint. We can be free and we can have a kind of super mind, super heart, in some sense, right? And then we want to have something totally different religion, a totally different moral or something. That is a planet B, I think.
Welcome to the planet. So, I think that's it, but thank you very much for your really great insights. And actually, as a conclusion, just one sentence, please. Just one sentence or one word. I have one final question to you. So I would like to ask you all for a last word in response to a question at the end. I'm saying from you to you. One sentence, one word. Actually, I really like this question. How can we become more human?
Compassion. Kindness.
Kindness.
Willing.
Well, I maybe difficult. To be robot.
How could I top this provocation? Fair distribution of resources.
Humility.
This is kind of ironic, but
Thank you very much. Nathan, Akane, Hiroshi, Martina, Newman, and Kasia. Thank you.